Excited to have Martin Rutte with us today. I actually met him 32 years ago when Jack Canfield brought him to a meeting at the Inside Edge. And we usually have 100, 150 people in that meeting every Wednesday morning at the Beverly Hills Hotel. And Jack said, you have to have Martin here as a speaker, and he's going to need a full 2 hours. And I said, well, you know, we only have 45 minutes. And he says, no, he needs 2 hours. And he was so insistent that I just sensed it would be amazing. I told everybody to make sure they were there for extra time, and it really was amazing. People are still talking about that morning. It was really very revolutionary. Brooke was there, actually, I remember, and Pamela Chandel was there, and he was just so confronting and fabulous. And he is an international speaker and consultant. He's the president of Livelihood, which is a management consulting firm in Santa Fe, New Mexico. And that company provides strategic vision, corporate spirit, performance management, facilitated dialogue, and creative leadership. And in the US, he's worked with Sony Pictures Entertainment, Southern California Edison, Virgin Records, Apple Computer, and the list goes on. He's the co-author of the New York Times business bestseller, Chicken Soup for the Soul at Work, translated into over 20 languages with sales over 1.1 million copies. And for more than 25 years, he's been exploring people's vision for the kind of world they deeply long for, Project Heaven on Earth. And his new book on this subject, as you know, is Project Heaven on Earth, the 3 simple questions that will help you change the world easily. He sees Heaven on Earth as the new story of what it means to be a human and what it means to be humanity. So over to you, Martin, and welcome.
Thank you, Diana. And just first of all, thank you for you. That was an amazing first time that I spoke at Inside. I was so nervous. It was the first time I think I ever spoke in the US from Canada. No. And I was like, oh my God, they'll know all this stuff. They've heard this before. And there was a wonderful reaction. And to you and Paul, your beloved late husband, who said, yes, let's do it, which I thought was, whoa, okay. So thank you, everybody. And as Diana said in her introduction of me, my background is corporate consulting. Some of the big corporations that she mentioned, Labatt Brewery, Sony Pictures, Southern California Edison. And I've also done a lot of work in spirituality and work. I set up the first, I and a professor set up the first Center for Spirituality in the Workplace at the Sobey School of Business in Halifax, Canada. That was the first of its kind in Canada, and it was really something special. And I did the Chicken Soup book, which was about story. Well, I'll come back to that. And then I was doing this keynote address in Santa Fe, maybe 30 years ago, on spirituality and work. And I was sitting by myself in the green room thinking, if every business in the world is spiritual, is that what you want? And I said, no, not really. But if we could transform business, we could transform the world. And then this thought popped into my head, oh, you mean heaven on earth. And my first reaction was, oh my God, you can't say that. I mean, you can't say heaven on earth. People will think you're proselytizing or some kind of religious zealot in hiding. And then I thought, but wait a minute, why can't you say that? I can certainly talk to you about the hells on earth, can't I? That's acceptable conversation. Why can't I talk about heaven on earth? So that began this inquiry into, well, what am I talking about? I didn't even know what I was talking about. I didn't even have an idea in my mind. What I wanted to do was just launch this inquiry, see what the territory looked like. And I'm not a big reader, but I'm a big interactor. And I thought, wouldn't it be lovely if I just started asking people, what's heaven on earth for you? What's heaven on earth for you? What's heaven on earth for you? And I just asked hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of people that question over and over and over again. And that began to open the territory for me because I began to see patterns in the answers, which I'll talk about, but they became very clear to me. And I also began to see that there were 3 fundamental questions, which is the subtitle of the book, 3 simple questions that will help you change the world easily. There are that there are three fundamental questions that get people to discover what heaven on earth is. Not people, get you to discover what heaven on earth is for you, and then have you begin to engage with that. And so the first part of my talk this morning is to talk about those three questions. And more importantly, I'm going to ask you the three questions. So let's just jump right into it. And Rebecca, can you put up question number 1, please? The question is, recall a time when you experienced heaven on earth. What was happening? Recall a time when you experienced heaven on earth. What was happening? Now, what we're going to do is we're going to break you into groups of, I think, 4. I'd like you to just dive right into this and have each of you just answer that question for about 30 seconds. Recall a time when you experienced heaven on earth. What was going on? So we'll give each of you 30 seconds, which will be about 2 minutes, just a little over, and then we'll come back. All right, so just answer that question alone. Hi, everybody, welcome back. So let's take a couple of shares if we can.
Well, I will, I can answer if that's okay.
Yeah.
Because it was a revelation since I first heard this question the other day. And I realized it was when the idea for the Inside Edge came into our minds, and how magical it all became, because we were really outside of our comfort zone, but we knew that it gave us a purpose to bring people together around life-enhancing ideas and networking in a way that everybody participated in building each other's careers. And it was so magical just to watch how it just came together. And basically, without all the fear and terror of it, it was heaven on earth. Yeah.
Thank you, Diana. Who else? Give me 1 or 2 more, please.
I'm a hypnotherapist, and there's so many times in which some of my sessions, it's like people actually touch their heavens when they're in there, when they come out of their sessions. And to me, that is like, they take me with them. And it's just so transforming, and it allows you to touch each other soul to soul. And I think that is phenomenal. And also sometimes healing work where you help a person heal energetically. So for me, that's touching heaven, as well as being in presence of nature that just absolutely stops you. And you just look at that amazing, amazing palette of God's wondrous work.
Mm-hmm.
Amen. Thank you so much, Lisa. Craig, you had your hand up? Where are you? Down there, okay?
Yeah, I'm here. I just, thank you, Lisa. And I think it was Diane that I was in the room with, and their answers were so touching and beautiful. So really happy to participate with that. My feeling is, and I've answered this question with you before, the first time I held my newborn daughter was so such an untoppable life experience, a heaven on earth experience. And then I'm close to the ocean. I love the ocean. Anytime I'm in the middle of, I can look at the water, touch the water, be in the water. it is heaven on earth for me to have that experience. And Martin, I just love these questions. They're just so profound. You know, they're really fantastic, moving stuff.
Thank you, Craig. Thank you. All right. I'm going to talk about the structure of the question and the flow of the questions once we come back. So I don't want to talk about that yet. Second question. So imagine you have a magic wand. Imagine you have a magic wand, and with that wand, you can create heaven on earth. Imagine you have a magic wand, and with that wand, you can create heaven on earth. What is heaven on earth for you? So let's take 30 seconds each to answer that. So you can, if you have a pen, or you pretend you have a pen, something that's a magic wand, you just wave it and heaven on earth appears. What is that? All right, can we break it up into rooms? Thanks. Okay, so question, give me some sharing on that. You have a magic wand, and with it you can have heaven on earth. What's heaven on earth for you? Yes, Brooke, please.
For me, what I shared with my group is I just said everybody is relaxed and peaceful, doing their own thing. I'm leading my fulfilling life, and the family next to me is leading their fulfilling life. And there's a peacefulness and confidence that is just there and understood. So There's no, there's nothing that has to happen, and there's nothing that can't happen.
Ooh, Craig, write that in the chat. I love that. I've never heard that one before. Thank you. Who else? Denby, yeah.
Oh, I just said, I think a couple of us said that are similar. For me, it would be with the wave of a wand, everyone would simultaneously experience unconditional love, because I think that's what keeps us all separate. And I would like for everyone to feel it at the exact same moment. And I think that would, it's kind of like we're all experiencing COVID at the exact same moment. I'd really like unconditional love to be experienced at the exact same moment. And that would be different for different people, but it would be, the universal unconditional love felt at the simultaneous moment.
Very clear, very beautiful. Someone else. Patricia, yes.
I would say without a hesitation, I said that every living thing, every living human on the planet would have clean water, nutritious food to eat, a work to do that gives them dignity, would know their children were safe to go to school and their families were safe in whatever kind of dwelling that they chose to have for themselves or could have. That is in a spirit of cooperation with each other at a local, in a universal level. That is the biggest burden on my heart. And the second one is to have everybody unplug their damn televisions and throw them away and begin thinking for themselves.
Thank you, Patricia. It's very beautiful. Your heart shone through for me, Patricia. But one comment, if I may. Would you change the word "it would be" to "it is"? From heaven on earth would be, which is conditional, to heaven on earth is, which is declarative.
Thank you. I'm very aware of the power of the intentional word. So I
Good.
will use that, Martin. Thank you.
Thank you very much. So, third question. What simple, here it is. What simple, easy, concrete step will you take in the next 24 hours to make heaven on earth real? And I'm going to tell you later where you can get these questions as well, so you don't need to worry about it. Do I get them or not? What simple, easy, concrete step will you take in the next 24 hours? What simple, easy, concrete step will you take in the next 24 hours to begin making that real? We're going to do another 2.5 minutes, same groups. Okay, well, we're back. We're fully back. All right, let me take a hands up. Who would like to share? What's simple, easy?
But we had such a nice connection in our room.
Yeah.
UN started by saying he would meditate, and that we all agreed with that. And Joanne Tatum chimed in with that. And what I shared was that, Joanne said that I think that if we speak and we think of things as being present now, what we're asking for, just like you said before we went to break, that is extremely powerful. And I mentioned a book that's called Scripting the Life You Want, where you are every morning writing down the most outrageous presence of everything you want happening right now. It's just happening. And I have found that there's something tremendous in this. And I did a 10-day script, and within a day, everything had started happening. So I don't know if you're going to address that, the fact that focusing on having it now and the effect of that would be really valuable.
Yeah. Yes. Well, let me just take some other comments on that. Anybody with their simple? Lisa?
Very briefly, I think what I would do is, number one, tell people about your book. Number two, I would ask people, what is heaven on earth for them? And I would say, how would you continue this? How would you share this with somebody else? I think the conversation needs to daisy chain so that people start to pull out of themselves the situation and say, oh, I could do that. Oh, I've experienced that. Oh, that's, I think, is the most important thing, is opening up the conversation.
Let me, Lisa, I want to make a comment about, I'm asking you not to ask people what is heaven on earth for you. it's too big a question to begin with,
Okay.
which is why the 3 questions are important.
Thank
And
you.
so let me take the other shares, then I'll come back and answer that specifically. I've forgotten who was next. Was William?
Bill George's.
Bill George.
Bill.
Yes, Bill. Hi, Bill.
Hi. In our group, I think we could sort of summarize the statement by saying, be the solution we want to be and keep our connection to spirituality and to source. That's a general statement, but we all had specific things to do. I mean, one person said meditation, another person said teaching others, but it all came down to being the love that you want to see on the planet, or being the example you want to be to others, and helping others start to walk that path and see that. And it could start with something as simple as meditation, but it's a long journey, and we all need patience and just giving a summary isn't enough. I mean, each of us have our individual ways of doing it, and maybe that's the answer. You know, it's a personal answer to the question of think globally and work locally. It's the same thing because it's such a big question. So you want to think globally about making a heaven on earth, but then take some concrete locally. So that's sort of what we all came up with in our brief amount of time.
Thank you, Bill. And I'm going to come back to that because you're all saying exactly the points that I want to make, but I want to get shares first, and then Brooks, and then I'll go into the discussion. Yes, Brooks.
Yeah.
Thanks, Bill.
To me, it was really clear that I'm a business consultant, and I have a great new project that came out of the past 2 weeks ago, and I'm in the middle of it. And what I can do is do my best at that project, bring forth my best, and do great work with the people. And that's it. It's already there. So.
Thank you, Brooks. All right, let me go through the 3 questions one by one. So question 1, recall a time when you experienced heaven on earth. What all of you did is answer the question. What none of you did, and what I never hear, is people asking me, what do you mean by heaven on earth? So how do you know what I'm talking about? I never defined it. I never said what it was, what it is. I just said, recall a time when you experienced heaven on earth, and you did. That astounded me when I first saw that in action. And it's because we have what's inside of us, something called the already knowing about what heaven on earth is. And so when the question arises, recall a time when you experienced heaven on earth, bang, you go right to that event. Walking in nature, when my child was born, having a wonderful meal, telling my wife I love her, whatever it is, but you instantly know what it is. That to me is astounding. The second question, recall a time, imagine you have a magic wand, and with it you can have heaven on earth. First of all, the rationale for the magic wand is it removes the necessity of you having to know how you're going to create heaven on earth. And if you don't have to know how, you can go immediately and deeply into the what. What is always the first question. How is the second. We've got it backwards for many of us. If we think how's the first question, then we'll be limited to what the hows are that we know. So we remove the how as a question by using the magic wand. And you heard the kinds of answers that people went into, which were astounding to me. Always from that depth of heart, from that depth of really deeper for me, from soul, from essence, from Godhead. People know what heaven on earth is. And this work is about making that conversation public, normal, and acceptable. And then the third question, what simple, easy, concrete steps will you take in the next 24 hours to make that real? I don't want to just leave you at question number 2, what is heaven on earth for you, and the discovery of that. I want you to actually get into action on what that is. And the key word here is simple. I was doing a webinar like this with people all around the world, and there was a woman from Austria, Elizabeth. And she said, I said, do you have a project, a heaven on earth project that comes out of this? Oh yes, Martin. I said, okay, what is it? Elizabeth, Austria is a heaven on earth nation. And I went, what? Well, why do you say that? And she said, well, because it's simple. And she taught me the value of the word simple. I don't know what your simple is, but you do. And so that third question gets at the discovery of something that is simple for you to do will engage you automatically in it. And then putting the timeline of the next 24 hours will engage you to go, oh, okay, well, I'll just go and do this. Good. Then you're in the game. So let me go back to, who was it that I was saying that I would go back to? It's not appropriate. Yes, Lisa, thank you. Lisa, so what I said, you can't go to a person and say, what is heaven on earth for you? It's too big. There's no context. If you go question by question by question, first recall a time. That's easy, I can do that. When my wife supported me this morning. And then here's the magic wand. What is heaven on earth for you? Oh, that's easy. Yes, this is what I want. And then the third question, what simple, easy step will you take? Now they're in the game. By their definition, I did not define heaven on earth. You define heaven on earth. So it's not imposing, it's not proselytizing, it's evoking. Totally different. It comes from within your heart and soul, from your deep essence. People know what heaven on earth is. And these times that we're in, the craziness, is actually even more perfect for me in one way. I mean, I don't want it present, but because it allows people to go deeper into what their soul wants. That's becoming more and more normal, acceptable conversation. So that co-creating and experiencing heaven on earth becomes the new story of what it means to be a human and what it means to be humanity. 5 or 10 or 15 years ago, let's say 10 years ago, we heard a lot of people say, you know, the story's not working. We need a new story. We need a new story. Remember all that? Lots of people said that. And then we stopped hearing that line. And I say the reason we stopped hearing that line is because the story wasn't named. So let's say Lisa and I are in a relationship and, you know, Lisa, our relationship's not working. It's not working. We need a new story. We need a new story. But I just keep saying that, then it's harping, it's complaining. But if I say, Lisa, I want to create a new story with you if you're willing, and I want that story to be, we're co-creating heaven on earth, would you join me? And if she says yes, now we're in something totally different. We're in a named story. The title of the book, if you look, is Project Heaven on Earth. But there's another title, Project Heaven on Earth. We're projecting heaven on earth, and we're doing project heaven on earth. It's implied in the double entendre of that word, project. So let me see, how am I doing here for time? Okay, so I want to talk about, we're a little behind. Let me talk about some of the examples because I think those are important. So I never know what people are going to show, how they're going to show up in this world with respect to heaven on earth. So I'll give you a couple of examples. I was doing a webinar like this, and we're talking about the sufferings in the world, and a woman said, I'll tell you a suffering, violence against women. I've been to the police, I've been to the government, nothing. What would you do? I mean, she was mad. I said, well, I don't know your financial situation. You could donate $5,000, you could donate a penny. Well, what difference would a penny make? One of the other women on the call said, wait, what if everybody in your county donated a penny a day to help end violence against women? She went, oh my God, they created a program, this women's group, in which they handed out a mason jar like this with a picture of a woman, half her face beaten up, bruised, half her face bright, alive with the light coming out. And they called it Making Change. And they asked people to contribute a penny a day or more for a year. You couldn't put a check for $3.65 in the jar and say, that's it. No, 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 a penny, a penny, a penny. They raised $2,500 in their county and the county beside. They also came in 2 counties. This was in Lunenburg, Nova Scotia, Canada. They then took that to the government of Canada, status of women, who gave them, based on their results, $100,000 for each of the subsequent 3 years, based on a penny a day. I have a woman in Hawaii who's embedded her definition of heaven on earth in the bottom of every email she sends out. A police officer in Texas who's created a 16-page manual called Heaven on Earth for Law Enforcement. A real estate agent who's created a program called A Home for Everyone, where each of the agents in her office with agreement donate $100 from each commission check to help to set up a program called A Home for Everyone. They've raised, last I spoke to her, $400,000, and they ask community organizations or community members to put in a proposal every year to use that money to create a home for everyone. And we also have on the call today, are you still here? Yes, you are. If you can see Suraj. Suraj, can you unmute? Hi,
Hello,
Suraj.
everyone.
Hi. Suraj is in Dehradun, India. He read about me in a book called The Code of the Extraordinary Mind by Vishen Lakhani in Mind Valley. He is the editor-publisher of an online newspaper called The Dehradun Street. He interviewed me. We then have a conversation afterwards, and we came up with the idea of, go ahead, Suraj.
Of making Dehradun a heaven on earth city. And it's going well. So we interviewed Martin first, and then I gave my whole brief in the in the consecutive edition, like what I think what heaven and earth is, and all the about all the three questions I answered. And then he replied back to that sentence, and those are the three editions which have just gone till now, and that's doing wonders now.
He wrote a full-page editorial on what heaven on earth for Dehradun was for him. He's now declared that is the declaration for the newspaper. They're putting it on their masthead, and every week they'll have a story, something from somebody around the world, or hopefully more in Dehradun because it's just begun, talking about what they're doing to contribute to making Dehradun a heaven on earth city. I mean, could I have thought of that? No, no. It's so the creativity. So Suraj, and he's really excited because this is the first time he's spoken in another country about it. Thank you, Suraj, my dear. That's wonderful. I'm really proud of you. Yes. Give him a thumbs up and a clap on your little reactions. Because I mean, you can tell he was nervous doing it. You know, this has never been done before. So I also have a man from Gabon, Africa, who I was doing a seminar like this, and he said, oh my God, he started it because he wanted Africa to be a heaven on earth continent. And so we started a Facebook group called Africa, a Heaven on Earth Continent. So we have Suraj doing Dehradun, India. We have Elizabeth doing Austria. We have other people doing different countries as well. Denmark, Croatia, Hungary, Mexico, I forgot them all. And oh yeah, and here in Prince Edward Island, a group of us have declared PEI, Prince Edward Island is Canada's first heaven on earth province. 2 years ago, I interviewed all 4 political party leaders. They all answered the 3 questions and what heaven on earth is for Prince Edward Island, including the premier, the governor. It was amazing. Thank you, Suraj, for being on and for being a world influencer. Okay.
Martin, I have a quick question.
Yes, Bill.
In your book, do you have a blueprint for this or a list of items to do? I mean, maybe Suraj could send us out how he started his online newspaper and all the steps to take. Because I think something like that can be repeated here, maybe even at universities. Just a thought, but having a blueprint would really help.
William, here's the issue with this. The blueprint is a context. Think of Heaven on Earth, Project Heaven on Earth, like a piece of software. You download a new piece of software, you boot it up, and then it sits there and says, okay, William, from now on, you can have heaven on earth. That's the context. But I can't go any further until I have the content called William George. William needs to come up with his own content, like Suraj came up with his own, like Charles came up for Africa. The blueprint is, buy the book, think about what your project is, and it will be natural to you. Like for Suraj, it was just natural. I've got a newspaper. Well, why don't I just do it? And all of a sudden the momentum's building and people are writing him and I'm sharing about this with other people. And I would do the same with you, Bill. So the more examples we have, the better this becomes, because it becomes real to people. I don't want people to think, oh, isn't this a great idea? It's much more than a great idea. It's actually showing up. And here's one way you can know. Go to Google, put in the phrase, in quotes, heaven on earth, end quote, 2018. Look at the number. Then, in quotes, heaven on earth, end quotes, 2019. Then, in quotes, heaven on earth, 2020. And watch what happens to the numbers. It's coming into culture. And part of the gift of COVID, you know, I hope it hadn't been here, but is that people are now willing to entertain ideas that were heretofore impossible. Heaven on earth, what are you, nuts? That's stupid, that's impossible, that's naive, that's ridiculous. Except it's happening. Any other questions, right? I got like 3 or 4 minutes for questions. Questions or comments? Thank you, Suraj. I'm so proud of you. I'm so thank you for coming on. And I told you you would impact the world, Suraj, didn't I?
You're most welcome. Yes, I'm there. I'm here.
Robin.
Hello.
Hi, Robin.
Well, this is great to hear all these examples and how it's actually manifesting around the world. And thank you for that inspiration. I'm wondering how, if people are doing this in organizations, in companies, in nonprofit groups like ours, are there examples like that? And if so, any tips for, you know, how we might help a group of people create a heaven on earth with, you know, more than one, like a co-creation of a larger group?
It's a brilliant question, Robin, and it's so pertinent to these times. Up until literally around now, it's been individuals. The first factor was to get this idea into culture, right? Because when I started 35, it was like, it's nuts, it's impossible, you can't do that, it's naive. All those resistance statements, they just don't exist anymore. So I can see the maturation of the meme. We're still not at the fully group level yet. It's beginning. I mean, Suraj taking on the city, Charles taking on the continent. Elizabeth, I think, is the most advanced in terms of taking on her country. She's taking the book to the president. She's speaking to groups. She did she's got priests to ask the 3 questions at Mass. She's done a Halloween evening where she had lights in a monastery and people came in and they were given little magic wands to create heaven on earth. Robin, here's really the issue for you. Would you be willing to start a group?
Well, I would be, but I love collaborating. I work best in most
a collaborative group. So I'll make it more specific.
Okay. Yeah.
Only
Diana's my buddy.
We collaborate. So
I would love you to do that and then come back to me and tell me what you're learning about collaboration with respect to co-creating heaven on earth. That is clearly the next level, clearly. And it's still, in all honesty, too young for me to comment on, simply because we don't have enough examples. I mean, that's the only reason.
You know, I jumping in here, but we used to have parties where we had to show up as who we were going to be in 5 years. And it was confronting and wonderful, and we were in person, but we could have a Zoom party where people show up as their concept of heaven on earth and have a discussion. Wouldn't that be fun?
Whoa.
As an event, one of our events coming up.
Love it. Love it. You would have to come up with a project or have a project, right? And now when I say the word project, put simple with project, put easy with project. It can't be difficult or you won't do it. It has to be so easy. It's like taking a pen and dropping it. It has to be that easy. Like writing an editorial in a newspaper, like putting it on your masthead. That's easy for him to do, but the effect is incredible, incredible.
Craig has a question there. And then we have to wind up and
Yep.
hear the next projects. Great.
Go ahead. Yep. Great.
Yeah, Martin, thank you again. I just wanted to say that since you first asked me these questions earlier, I have found that every once in a while, as a result of it, I have the opportunity to think, oh yes, I want this to become a heaven on earth situation. So then I sneak it in somehow in the broader context if I'm in a business environment or in a community environment. And I was recently having a discussion with a Reverend Kevin Ross at the Unity of Sacramento about something having to do with the George Floyd event. And in the course of our conversation, I asked him one of your questions. I didn't have time for all three, but I said, I asked him about, imagine you have a wand, and I could just see his face change. And he was just about to go meet with the mayor of Sacramento. And he said to me, I will be able now to bring that into my meeting with the mayor of Sacramento. So that simple thing had ripple effects that could perhaps change the community in magnificent ways.
One other, thank you, Craig. Robin, I did have the head of an organization ask his board of directors the 3 heaven on earth questions. And they were crying, he said, just crying. It was very powerful.
Mark, can you tell us about what's coming up for you? I know you have this amazing event that we can share in as we conclude here.
Well, yes, a couple of things I want to talk to you about. Can we put up slide number 5, please, Rebecca? I want to talk to you all about, there's a free 7-day email course and weekly blog. Just go to Project Heaven on Earth. There's examples or stories there and sign up for that. The power of getting the course is it'll deepen you into this. Plus, getting a blog every week makes the conversation normal, all right? And the other thing can we bring up the next one as well? This is called The Case for Heaven on Earth. Rebecca, have you got that? All right, good. So this came to me about a couple of years ago. When you buy 20 copies of Project Heaven on Earth on Amazon, I will do a free 1-hour webinar or consult for you. Either way, just send me the receipt at martin@projectheavenonearth.com. So buy 20 copies and I will do one of these or a one-on-one consult with you. So we get this out into the world. And I'm asking you to buy at least 3 copies, one for you, one for somebody who you know right now, who that person is, needs this book, and one for somebody who's going to come into your life, that you'll have the book ready for them. Okay. Thank you, Diana.
Okay, now we always have some kind of closing activity, and I asked Martin if he would like to lead that closing activity. We normally spotlight people and show them on the screen and send blessings, but I want to turn it over to you, Martin, because you're always so relevant and creative.
Thank you, Diana. Thank you, everybody, for coming today. Thank you, Diana and Robin and Rebecca and Mahali and Suraj from India and from Anvi from Scotland and from the US and Canada. This is global today. So I say that to thank and acknowledge you, and also to say, if this has touched you, if Heaven on Earth has touched you, take this out in the world. And so let's take this out energetically now, all of us. Just spend a moment taking the experience of Heaven on Earth out. One of the things that people say is Heaven on Earth is impossible because they don't even believe it's possible. So if we just, excuse me, let that belief go and just let Heaven on Earth, which is right here, right now anyway, just let it come into us. I can feel it. And then return it to the earth, to the people around the earth, to the people suffering from COVID, all the refugee situations, the war situations, the prisoners, any particular suffering that really bothers you, hunger, war, homelessness. If there's a particular suffering that hurts you deeply, what I call your keystone suffering, put light in there, put Heaven on Earth in there. Racism, put Heaven on Earth onto racism, so racism disappears. We've forgotten the authority that we have through our word to create the kind of world that we long for, that our soul longs for. And it's now time. We've reached that point in the maturation of humanity to now see this for the garden it is and create more and more of that. Thank you.
Thank you, Martin. That was a wonderful presentation. We all just go to our